A Celtic strikers agent has just launched an explosive attack on the national team. There's been a major managerial link that could shape next season, and we've got devastating injury news that could end a career. Plus, title race drama as a rival coach makes a bold claim about our chances. It's been an intense 24 hours, but first make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Thomas Kavankara's situation with the Czech national team has taken another dramatic turn after his agent responded publicly to the reasons behind his omission. What looked like a straightforward selection call has now become a full-blown dispute over how the player's words were interpreted. Kavankara had been left out of the latest squad after comments about focusing on club football were highlighted. National team manager Miroslav Kubek made it clear he would not select a player who does not see international duty as a priority. That framed the decision as one based on attitude rather than form. His agent David Nahoda has now pushed back hard on that version of events. The claim is that the original interview has been taken out of context and that the full message has not been fairly represented. It also raises questions about communication between the player and the national setup. From a Celtic point of view, the timing is not ideal, but the focus remains clear. Kavankara is still working to establish himself in the team. Minutes have been limited, and every appearance matters as he tries to move up the pecking order. Here's what David Nahoda said. The justification for the absence of Tomas Kavankara from the nomination for the Czech Republic is entirely misleading and completely taken out of the context of the entire interview for Celtic TV from 5 weeks ago. No one from the national team management is or has been in contact with Tomas. Drawing information about the player and his current situation in the club solely from the media strikes me as very strange. Was Tomas basically telling the fans that after 3 games for Celtic, the national team is his priority? WTF. The key point now is how this affects the player on the pitch. Kavankara has started to contribute, with a recent goal and a penalty taken with confidence. That moment against Motherwell showed a player willing to take responsibility. At Celtic, a striker cannot rely on statements or reputation. He needs minutes and goals. If Kavankara continues to take chances when they come, the noise around international selection will fade. For now, the situation sits between 2 versions of the same story, one from the national team, one from the player's side. What matters most is what happens next in a Celtic shirt. Now for the main story, journalist Keith Jackson has put forward a serious option for the Celtic job, framing it around a familiar idea. After a period of uncertainty, the suggestion is that the club could turn back toward experience rather than risk. The argument leans heavily on what this candidate has done over time. His work with Scotland has been built on results. Qualification campaigns have been managed with control rather than flair. That has brought consistency, even if the style is not always easy on the eye. It also ties into what Celtic have just been through. A move towards something different did not work, and there is now a question about what comes next. Do they go back to a manager who focuses on structure and getting wins on the board, or do they stick with a more expansive approach? This manager's profile sits in that debate. He is not a coach who will promise constant attacking football. He is someone who looks at what he has and builds from there. That can be effective in a league where Celtic are expected to dominate most weeks, but it also raises questions about how the team would play at Parkhead. Here's what Jackson said. That's what Steve Clarke's been doing throughout his entire managerial career, and most certainly during these qualification campaigns at Scotland. Assess your squad, see what their strengths are, see what their weaknesses are, put out a team that is best able to go and win a game of football. Martin O'Neill comes along not once but twice, steadies the ship, shows what an old head can do. If Celtic were looking at a safer pair of hands, then maybe Steve Clarke's an ideal candidate. That last line is where the debate sits. Clarke's teams are built to control space and manage games. At Kilmarnock, that approach worked because he set them up to frustrate better sides. With Scotland, it has helped navigate qualification groups. At Celtic, the challenge is different. Most matches are played in the opposition half. The full-backs push high, and the midfield must move the ball quickly to break teams down. That requires a different style. The comparison with Martin O'Neill is not accidental. O'Neill has simplified the game and got quick results. Clarke would likely do the same in his own way. The question is whether that would be enough for a support that expects more than just winning. In other news, Falkirk coach Stephen McGinn has offered a grounded view of where Celtic stand under Martin O'Neill as the title race tightens. Speaking from the perspective of a coach who has faced the top sides this season, he pointed to small margins rather than any clear gap. Falkirk have tested themselves against the leading teams, and those matches tend to show where sides fall short. John McGlynn's side have had moments, but against Celtic and Hearts, they have not been able to turn that into points. That tells its own story about control in key moments of games. Celtic's performances under O'Neill have followed a pattern. They stay in matches, adjust when needed, and find a way to push games in their favour over time. It is not always smooth, but it is effective when it works. The complication has been availability. Just as players return, others drop out. That affects the starting 11. It also changes how the team builds attacks, especially when key roles in midfield or wide areas are altered from week to week. Here's what McGinn told Sky Sports. We managed to beat Hearts on penalties in the Scottish Cup, but in the league games against Hearts and Celtic, we haven't taken any points. They have been a step ahead of us in the game and in different ways. I think it's really close between them. We had a bit more joy against Rangers in the two games, and obviously we have them in a few weeks. I don't think there is much between the three teams. I genuinely thought, sitting here, if you said to me when Martin O'Neill came in for his second spell, just with title know-how, with a manager that has won the league before, I thought if it looked like this with about 7 or 8 games to go, then Celtic would win it. But every time you check a Celtic team, you think they are getting key players back, then another key player is out, so that could make them fall short in terms of not having your best players available to them. That last point is where the run-in could turn. Celtic have shown they can handle pressure, but constant changes in the team affect how quickly they move the ball and how well they press after losing it. O'Neill's experience still shows. His teams rarely drift out of games. They stay close and wait for moments. That can be enough over a season, especially when matches tighten late on. The gap between the top sides looks narrow. Results against each other and who can keep their best players on the pitch will shape the final weeks more than anything else. In other news, Peter Schmeichel has offered a raw and detailed look at his son's situation after Kasper Schmeichel revealed he could be out for up to a year. The former Manchester United goalkeeper spoke openly about the scale of the injury and how it has built over time. Kasper's update on Tuesday night changed the picture around Celtic's goalkeeping situation. What had looked like a manageable problem is now a long-term absence. 2 surgeries and a recovery that could stretch to 10 or 12 months leave real doubt over when or if he returns. For Celtic, the timing matters. The season is moving into its final stretch, and the club are already relying on Viljami Sinisalo. There is also the wider question of next season, with Schmeichel's contract nearing its end and no clear path back yet. Peter Schmeichel's comments add context to how it reached this point. This was not a sudden injury. It has been building since last year, with the goalkeeper playing through pain and trying to manage the problem rather than fully stepping away. Here's what Peter Schmeichel told CBS Sports. Kasper used the word devastating. If you think about how my life has been, my life and my full career as a professional football player has always been with Kasper. He has always been there for me. He was actually born on the day where the club I joined to become a full-time professional football player qualified for the quarter-finals in the Champions League, and that would then be my first game ever. All the way throughout my career, he has been there. Of course, I have tried to do exactly the same thing for him, so whatever situation he was facing, I tried to be there as a dad. I don't want this to end with an injury like that. That's all the latest Celtic news for today. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Hail, hail.